There's a point of no return in a place like St. Jude's Asylum. It isn't a door you walk through, it's more like a slow poisoning. A line you cross where the horrors stop being something you see on your rounds and start being something you are. For 30 years, I walked these halls wrapped in a thick, cynical coat to keep the madness out, to keep the sorrow from seeping into my bones. It was my religion, that cynicism. Now I feel it unraveling, the seams coming apart. The truth I've been digging for about a missing nurse named Helen Evans and the superintendent who runs this place like his own private, gruesome laboratory, it hasn't set me free. It's done the opposite. It's chained me to the ghosts here, and their whispers are getting louder. I confronted him, Dr. Alistair Croft. I walked into his polished, perfect office, a room that doesn't belong in this crumbling asylum. It's a stage, all dark wood and leather-bound books that have never been opened, a place designed to make you feel the weight of his intellect and your own insignificance. I came armed with the proof Helen left behind. A locket, a desperate scribbled note, and I laid it on his desk like a weapon. I thought I could break him, force some flicker of humanity, some confession to the surface. But men like Croft don't break. They don't have anything inside them to break, they just twist. He twisted her memory, twisted her bravery into a symptom of delusion. He held up the picture of Helen with that man, a journalist named Davies, and he spoke of how she was enamored, how they both had overactive imaginations that led them down a dangerous path. And then he told me, with no more emotion than if he were commenting on the weather, that Mr. Davies had died in a tragic accident, a fire at his boarding house, not long after he started asking questions. An accident, just like Helen's sudden resignation. He looked me right in the eye, that cold, clinical gaze of his, and he offered me a choice, silence and a comfortable life, or his own special brand of therapy. The same therapy I've seen him use to turn men into empty, drooling husks. I walked out of that office a different man. Not stronger, not braver, just marked. A man who knows he's being hunted, not by something with claws, but by a mind that sees people as puzzles to be taken apart. The asylum itself seems to have turned against me now. It's no longer just a backdrop of misery, it feels active, malevolent. The whispers started not long after that, or maybe they'd always been there and I just started hearing them properly. It's not just the wind in the eaves anymore. It's my own name, slithering through the quiet corridors, curling around corners just before I get there. John, poor John, thought you could find the truth. It's a chorus of voices. Some sound like patients I've known, some sound like him. I'd see my own reflection in a window pane, in the murky water in a basin. But it wasn't me staring back. It was this hollowed-out stranger, his eyes wide with a terror I recognized, his mouth open in a scream that made no sound. I'd splash water on my face, but the face in the reflection wouldn't change, just ripple and reform into the same silent scream. It felt like Croft was doing it himself, like he was a ventriloquist and my own mind was his dummy, like he was inside my head, pulling the levers, trying to push me over the edge into the same madness he was so meticulously creating in his patients. I started to doubt everything. I'd pull the locket from my pocket, the metal cool and heavy in my hand, trying to use it as an anchor to reality. But the doubt was like a poison. Was it real? Did I really find it? Or was it planted? Was this all just another one of his elaborate experiments, and I was the rat in the maze? The thought was paralyzing. If I couldn't trust my own discovery, the one thing that started all this, then I couldn't trust anything. I couldn't trust my own memories, my own senses. It all came to a head one night. I was drawn to one of the old examination rooms on the 3rd floor, the same one from my nightmares, the one where I remember seeing Croft with Mrs. Albright. The silence in there was different. It wasn't empty. It was so total, so absolute. It felt like a physical weight pressing down on me, pinning me in place. And I knew, standing there under the single buzzing light, that I had a choice to make. A terrible one. Croft had laid out the terms of my existence. He had offered me a way out, in his own twisted way. I could just shut up. I could take the comfortable job, the extra pay, the quiet room. I could keep my head down and let the ghosts stay ghosts. Let him continue his work. And I'd be safe. The thought was seductive, a siren's call in the storm. The thought of just not feeling this anymore, of going numb again. Or I could fight. I could scream the truth from the rooftops. I could take Helen's note, what little I knew, and try to bring the whole rotten structure down. And he would break me, just like all the others. He'd use his machines and his drugs, and he would turn me into just another one of his babbling experiments. My truth lost in a sea of his manufactured madness. My name would become just another entry in a file. My fight for sanity, recorded as the final violent throes of psychosis. I even thought about running, just walking out the front gate and never looking back, trying to melt back into a world I barely remembered. But how do you escape a prison when it's inside your own head? The asylum would follow me. The faces. The sounds. Croft's voice. They were part of me now. There was no escape. But then standing there in that awful silent room, feeling the cold of the examination table under my hand, a third option began to form. It wasn't a brave choice, not really. It was a survivor's choice. I wouldn't run and I wouldn't scream. Not yet. I would become a ghost myself, a silent witness. I would walk these halls not as a nurse, but as a memory. I would watch, and I would remember everything. Every quiet cruelty, every new patient with fear in their eyes, every hushed conversation between Croft and his acolytes. I would refuse to break. I couldn't stop him, not yet, but I could refuse to become one of his monsters. My sanity, or what was left of it. That would be my rebellion. I would carry the truth not as a weapon to be swung wildly, but as a scar, a secret thing to be protected. I would wait. In the heart of that darkness, that was the only stand I could make. It was a promise I made to myself, and to the ghost of Helen Evans. I would endure. And in that endurance, I would make my stand. A quiet, stubborn refusal to be erased.